So I'm going to record this session and then post it so people who aren't here can see it also. So welcome back. It's been a while since I've seen you. Thank you for letting me cancel last time. I'm sure it broke your hearts and you're devastated that you didn't get to come to Zoom a couple weeks ago, but you know, life happens and things have to be adjusted. So, all right. So the first thing I want to do tonight is spend just a little bit of time talking about the last, really it's been a month to 6 weeks since we saw each other, more so probably. And just kind of digesting and processing what we've learned about. So in the last few weeks, you were really getting into kind of what I like to call the meat and potatoes of differentiation, where you were talking about the content process and product, differentiating all of that according to a student's readiness, interest, and learning profile. So the first thing I want you to do is I'm going to mute my mic, and I just want you to share out a couple of things maybe. If there was anything that you thought, I totally remember seeing that, or this really surprised me, I hadn't thought about that in a new, or at all, or I'm thinking about it in a new way now. So just kind of a few thoughts about what we've been learning about the last few weeks. And anybody can jump in and share.
So what I ended up thinking about for this whole thing is it's not enough to differentiate just one part. It has to be all three parts. And not just that, but everything we've talked about as a whole for it to really be called a differentiated classroom.
This is a topic that I hadn't, differentiating in general, I hadn't really heard much about or really dealt. This has been kind of mind-blowing, I guess. It's really eye-opening. I really want to work to instill this in my class. I think it's so important that students are engaged by being able to be challenged and all the different ways to do that. I'm still kind of rattling my brain on when is the best time to use all of this differentiating. I know like products are really helpful at the end of a unit to make sure that students are have a good understanding of the topic you just learned, but this is one of my favorite classes. I love learning about all this stuff, so I had a good time learning about this stuff this past couple of weeks.
One thing I want to jump in here, and based on what both of you said, it can be so overwhelming at times because you're like, oh my gosh, I have to think about this and do this, and okay, I can't forget that, and what about this? But the key, and in Caroline Tomlinson's video, and I think it was the one I shared with you, she talks about, if not, then I will share it with you. There's another one where she talks about you start and you do one thing. You try one activity, you try one lesson, maybe a unit or a quarter, just to get your foot in the door, so then you get good at that, and then you could add something else in the next year. I'll share that video with you because I remember feeling the same way, like, oh my God, I've got so much to do and I've got to plan all of this. And you do have to think about all these moving pieces, like you said, Kylie, and it can feel very overwhelming. But I really like this class too, because I think it's one of the classes before you get into methods where you're really getting into good education and instruction, and it's not just another kind of fluff gen ed course that you have to take, in my opinion, being the teacher of the class. But anyway, okay, I'll let a couple other people share.
Okay, I have to say that I thought that this was pretty interesting also because you don't really think about how to differentiate. You kind of just go into it. You're like, all right, let's try something different. And so actually learning other ways that I don't necessarily think of right off the top of my head. It was kind of nice to have that just in the back of my head to know of whenever, if something's not going right, okay, here's something different. So I think it's just helpful to know other ways. That's it.
Coming into this class, I thought differentiation was going to be really, really hard. But one thing that I noticed throughout the book is that like there's a lot of like tips and stuff, especially like in the differentiating by products chapter. Like there was like a list of probably 50 things that I never really thought of ways to like assess the students other than tests. I thought that was kind of cool.
Pick her up, gentlemen.
I thought a lot of it was kind of interesting to me too. I knew the what was it, the interests one. We're going over that a lot in one of my other classes, but then the other two, the process and the product ones, I've never really been introduced to until now. Your turn.
When I thought about a lot of the product stuff when going through and reading the book, and a lot of it sounded familiar because I've talked to a lot about it with my mom, with some of the stuff that she's talked to me about school. So I knew a lot about the product stuff, but the interest in the other one I wasn't real familiar with when reading. So those two were pretty interesting to me.
Good. I'm glad. I hope that you will, if you bought a copy of the book, that you keep the book, because I think you will find it very useful when you get into the classroom. When you're doing your student teaching and your supervisor says, gosh, I really need you to think about helping students at different levels. You can kind of pull this book out and be like, all right, what's a quick, easy way that I can try to differentiate for some kids? Because when you walk in that room, you're going to have, 20-ish kids, and they're going to be at all different levels, different interests, all of this. And really the first step is you have to get to know them really, really well. And once you know them and you know your content, and then you can start to put those two things together. And I promise, as you get into more time in the classroom and more lesson planning and being able to carry out those lessons, because I know up to this point it's kind of like, oh yeah, we write all these lessons, but we don't actually get to teach them. But when you get into that, you will see the connections just automatically come together. You're like, oh yeah, that's how this works, or this piece can integrate with this other piece. So it will be a good this is a good kind of jumping off place for you. So I hope you keep that book as a resource. Okay, so the remainder of the course for the last, and I don't think I have opened up those sections on Canvas yet. I haven't. There's a section about working with parents and families to help them understand differentiation. Sometimes that is really difficult because it might not look like or feel like how it did when they went to school. I'm not fighting that, but I'm dealing with that right now with math, that so many parents feel like this doesn't look like what we did when I was in school. And so we're having this huge parent math night this week at the school I'm at now. And so you have to kind of help educate parents about what this is. And also grading can look different. Like you said, Sarah, I think you're the one who said about looking at the assessments and the products, that you can think like, wow, typically you just think, oh, we're going to take a test and that's how I'm going to assess my students. But there's so many different ways that you can do that don't require a paper pencil test. It can be an exit ticket or a project or an informal observation. There's so many different ways that you can do that. And you have to help parents understand those different ways too, so that they feel really authentic. And then the next to last week is going to be focusing on management. How do you manage all of these things? So there'll be some examples about how you can do that too. And then the last week basically is presenting your project. So that's what I want to get into now and share with you. So I'm going to share my screen. Yes, this. Trying to figure out how to do this when I have two separate screens. There we go. Okay, can you see my Canvas screen now? Okay. Excuse me. So up to this point, I've only opened up up to week 13, which is this week coming up. And so within week 15, which I had opened already, there is the lesson presentation assignment. And so I'm going to go there because I'm going to show you the template in just a second. So actually, let me go ahead and open that. The template, there's two in there. One is for a Word document and the other is for a Pages document if you're working on your iPad. It's the exact same thing. It's just two different formats for whatever your needs are. Okay, so for our lesson planning project, the objective of this project is that you are going to basically what teachers do every day. You need to teach a standard to your class of students. And so the first thing most people do, if you don't have a curriculum to use, is you go online and you look for something. You look for a lesson plan, you look for an idea, you look for something that you can then build from. Almost, I'm going to say very, very rarely will you find a lesson plan that you print off and teach exactly how it is, because your kids are going to be different than maybe what this lesson plan was written for. So it's going to be important that you can look at a lesson plan and then make adaptations to that plan to fit your needs. So that's what we're going to do. So the objective is to adapt and present a lesson plan based on a mock classroom, and I'm going to give you that classroom. I'll talk about it in just a second, that synthesizes and applies the learning that you've done all this semester. So you are going to, so you've been emailing me your grade level, your subject, all of that. And then this week, I'm going to email you a mock classroom, the demographics. So it's going to look like this. You're going to get like 2 lines of a spreadsheet. I'm trying to get that over so you can see it. So like your name will be written here. So like if I write Erin's name there. So she might have, her mock classroom might be 21 students. She'll have 10 boys and 10 girls. Here's a breakdown of the ethnicities she's going to have in her class. Then you'll have a breakdown of your any special needs that you have in your classroom. And then, I can't see it because you guys are in the way, you'll know how many English language learners you have and how many students you have living in poverty. So a basic demographic breakdown of a classroom. You're going to take this information and adapt the lesson plan that you create or you find, it's up to you, to meet those needs of those students. So if you know that in your class you have 3 English language learners, you're going to want to make sure that in your lesson plan you're doing things to address their needs. So maybe if it's a math plan, you're going to have lots of manipulatives, you're going to make sure there's lots of interaction so they can stop and process with somebody. You're going to use lots of pictures and visuals, gestures to help them understand what it is that you're doing. So you're making it very interactive. If you know, like in this case, you have 5 students on an academic IEP, 3 are for math and 2 are for reading and math. So let's say you're doing a literacy lesson on sight words and you have students who have issues in reading. You're going to have to come up with a plan to help meet those needs. Now, I know it's difficult because you just know a general piece of information. It's not like you know specifically what their issues are, but you have to make sure you're taking stuff like that into consideration. Okay? So that's what I will send you. It'll be this top line and then your name with your set of numbers. Any questions about that? Okay. Then you are going to create your lesson using the template. Gotta find it again. Can I do it up here? Now, this is the elementary ed lesson plan template. Can everybody see it? Okay. This is the template that we use when you get into your block classes. They're talking about revamping it, but I don't think it's actually been approved yet. So this is the one we're going to use for this semester. Some of the things I have stricken, so you don't need to put that information in. So you're going to put your name and you can make up a school if you want to. So in the first section, it's the setting. Now, all of this, the number of students, grade level, numbers by gender, ethnicity, special needs, I'm giving that to you. So that part you will fill in directly from what I'm giving you with the mock classroom. The classroom physical setting, you get to make this up. It can be a classroom you've worked in. It could be your third grade classroom that you were in third grade. It could be what you want your ideal classroom to look like. So you get to make this part up. Materials, that's pretty self-explanatory. What materials do you need to teach the lesson? What do you need as the teacher? And what do the students need? Now, your instructional objectives. This is going to come directly from your standards. And yes, you do need to have standards identified, as you can see in 2.2. So if you have not looked for standards before, you're going to want to take a few notes on this. You can go to ksde.org, and this is where you can find all of our state standards. And you're going to go to teaching and learning. And then in the second column, you're going to see academic standards. So I'm just going to pretend that I'm doing math. So I'm going to go down and click on math. And then you're going to, right here where it says Kansas Math Standards. And then you're going to click on, see, sometimes they keep moving things around. Current math standards, that's what we want. And then you will go through here, because it's the Common Core plus the 15% that Kansans feel like they need to be added. And then you're going to go through and you're going to choose your objective. So let's say I'm doing, I don't want to do kindergarten. I don't want to do sixth grade either. Okay, here's fifth grade. So let's say you're doing fifth grade writing numerical expressions. So you're using parentheses, brackets, and using these symbols. So this would be your standard you're using. So on your template, you would write that standard right here. And I want you to put the number, and I want you to list out what the standard is. So don't just put like OA 5.3. I want you to put OA 5.3, you know, and whatever the wording is, because I don't want to have to go back and look all of those up, and I don't have them all memorized. Then your instructional objective is going to be based on that standard. So if the standard is this, you know, can use parentheses, brackets to express a number sentence, you're going to write, the student will be able to use parentheses, brackets, and symbols to write a number sentence. So it should come directly from what the standard says. Then you have your assessment. Oh, by the way, all the stuff in red here is just to help you with information. And so you can leave that or you can delete it. I don't care which. So for your assessment, you need to look at this sentence. I know students have mastered expressing number sentences with symbols, parentheses, brackets, blah, blah, when they score, and then you get to determine whatever the product is. So maybe it's a worksheet that they're doing. Maybe it's a exit ticket. Maybe it's a checklist that you're going to use as you walk around and look at them. Maybe it's a verbal something. If you're doing something with sight words, maybe they have to read 18 out of 20 sight words correctly. Whatever product it is that you're using, and that can come directly from the stuff that you learned about when you learned about products last week, I think. Okay? And then completed during whatever step of the lesson they're completing it. Usually it's going to be the closure part. Okay? Now this is the important, big important one here, the adaptation section. Make sure that you are being specific about what adaptations you're going to create for the students you have based on the mock classroom I sent you. So gearing down is like struggling students. How are you going to take this lesson but make it accessible for students? That doesn't mean you're watering it down. That doesn't mean you're making it easier for them. You're just making it more accessible. So maybe instead of, if you're having them write a paragraph, instead of having them just have to create the paragraph on their own, maybe you're going to give them some sentence starters to help them. Okay? And then the gearing up, what are you going to do for students that need more of a challenge? Okay? The integration you don't need to worry about. References and resources, you do need to list those. And then in number 7 is the teaching plan. So you're going to need to go through step by step exactly what you would do for this lesson. Now this you can totally cut and paste. So if you find a lesson online that you like and you want to use, cut and paste exactly what you see in one part. So if it tells the anticipatory set is you're going to read a book, a picture book to them, just copy and paste it there. So that as long as you've cited them as a resource, that's not a problem. And then you're going to go through each piece of the lesson plan. Okay. How do I stop sharing? Oh, there it is. Sorry. Okay, so what, do you have any questions about the lesson plan format itself? Okay, so that's, sorry, did somebody have a question?
I was just gonna say, are we gonna talk about the presentation part of it after, or like is it just something now?
We're gonna talk about it now.
Okay.
Yeah. So writing the lesson plan is the first part of what you're going to do. So you've sent me your information about what subject, grade level, all that stuff. I will email you your mock classroom. You will find your lesson plan or create it. Somebody emailed me and said they wanted to use a lesson plan they had to write for health class and they were just going to adapt it. Fine, I don't care. And then the next part of what you're going to do is you're going to create a presentation that you're going to share with a small group. So when we meet back in December, when it should be a bigger group because you have to present your lesson, you will, let me share my screen again. Okay, you will create some sort of a presentation, no more than 3 to 5 minutes, that will address the following information. So you're going to tell us your grade level subject topic, you're going to tell us what standard, you're going to tell us your objective, and then you're going to briefly describe what it is you're doing in your lesson. You're not going to go through every single step, but just give us a quick, synopsis, a paragraph. And then I do want you to go into detail on one specific activity that you decided to adapt based on your mock classroom. So in the 5th grade number sentence example, you might say, because I have 2 students with autism and it's hard for them, and one is almost nonverbal, I'm going to use index cards for them to show their work so it's easier. Or I'm going to give a student who is a second language learner the structure of the equation and they just have to fill in the numbers or the symbols, whatever the case may be. So explain to us one way that you change the lesson plan to meet your students' needs, okay? And then you can describe anything else. But the presentation needs to be about 3 to 5 minutes. Don't go any longer than that. You can do a PowerPoint, you can do a Prezi, you can do whatever. Just need to have a keynote on your iPad, just something so that you have that to share and use it as a reference. And you're going to submit the lesson plan and you're going to submit the presentation. And so you can see I have a rubric here. The lesson plan with your adaptations is worth 40 points. The presentation that you submit is worth 20 points. Your actual being here present to model and demonstrate your lesson for the group is worth 10 points. And then you have 5 points for editing, whether that's spelling, grammar, all those kinds of things. Okay. And that's all within the week 15 Canvas module that I just was showing you. So the template's there, the directions are there, and the presentation information. Questions? Excuse me. Go ahead, Kylie.
My question is actually, if we're working with another person, does that mean we only need to do one presentation for the 2 of us?
Yes.
And
you only
if,
have to do one presentation, but you have to both submit it.
okay, that
Yeah.
was what I wanted to know. Okay.
Yeah.
And if we haven't actually talked to the other person, because it's actually Maimuna, I'm going to ask her if she wants to work with me.
Okay.
So I see her in class tomorrow. So
Yeah, that's fine. Just send me an email if you guys decide that you want to do that. That's totally fine. Yes, good question. I'm glad you asked that. So if you are working with a partner, you're both going to submit the lesson plan and you're both going to submit the presentation, because when I go through and grade it, I need to see it on yours. But it can be the exact same. That's totally fine. Yeah, good question. Any other questions? Excuse me. Okay, hopefully it's pretty straightforward. Find a lesson plan, make up a lesson plan, write a lesson plan, whatever you want to do. Adapt it based on what you've learned, based on the classroom that I'm going to send you this week, and then have it ready to go that the first week of December. So we're doing that Sunday, Wednesday, and Thursday again. But I did want to ask you, and because you guys are here, you get to choose, or you get to have a bigger voice. I had a commitment come up that evening. So my question is, would you rather meet earlier in the day on Sunday or meet either Monday or Tuesday night as an option? If you don't care, you can just put in the chat, early Sunday, and I don't mean like 7 a.m. I mean like, 1 o'clock my time, 3 o'clock your time kind of a thing. So would you rather do earlier Sunday, a Monday night, Tuesday? And keeping in mind, you still can come on Wednesday and you can come Thursday morning if you want to. Okay. Kylie, do you care? And the boys apparently left and abandoned us. Rude. Excuse me. Okay. So we'll see what comes up. I might send a poll out to everybody and see what works for them. Okay. So like I said, this week you kind of have off. You can be working on your lesson plan stuff, and then the next 2 weeks, this really should say week 16 for the last week, the lesson presentation instead of 15. That's my mistake. I need to fix it. So you'll have 2 more weeks after this week of work to do, and then we'll do our lesson presentations, and that's it. Don't forget that you need to do your cultural activity. If you haven't done that, your paper. You're supposed to attend an event and then write your paper reflecting about what you did. So make sure you've done that. And I think most of you have done your diversity projects already. So I think you're good to go. Any other questions, concerns, anything for the good of the group?
I have a question. Are we going to have stuff to do next week during Thanksgiving? You probably have it on the schedule. I just haven't.
To ask your question again, I didn't hear you. What?
Are we going to have something to do during Thanksgiving?
No, I think I marked, let me pull up the syllabus. I think I said that we weren't going to have, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Oh no, I lied. Yeah.
I can't read that, Kylie.
Yeah, we do have an assignment, but here's what I'll do. I'll post it tonight or in the next day. Let me give myself 24 hours. And that way you can work on it early if you want to.
Okay, that'd be good. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I kind of forgot about that. I was thinking I had a break, but I think I changed it because we have these Zoom weeks in the middle. So, okay. All right, anything else? Okay, thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions, if you need anything, just email me and I will get back with you, okay? All right, if you need to stick around and ask something yourself, that's fine. Otherwise, you can sign out and I'll see you later. Okay, thanks. Bye, guys.
I did have one quick question on the cultural activity.
Sure.
My fiance and I went to the Nelson Atkins Museum in Kansas City a couple weeks ago, and they were having an exhibit on African art. Would that work?
Totally.
I didn't bring the thing back with me, but that would work.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay.
Did you happen to take a picture of yourself there?
Not of the African art exhibit. We actually took a picture of some of the crosses in the monastery exhibit.
Well, just send me a picture of that. That's fine. Just so I know you were there. Yeah, that's totally cool.
None of the pictures have us in them, but I've got a picture of one of the crosses.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
It's a great museum.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah, no problem. Okay, see ya.